Dr. Wentz and this company called USANA, and after a brief greeting, he launched yet again to all the reasons that I needed to get involved with this company. He knew I was looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical debt, and at one point during this conversation, he said, "Colette, this is the goose that laid the golden egg." Something about that sentence, it was just too much for me. I broke down, I started crying uncontrollably. I felt completely unseen. Didn't anyone know what I was going through? Well, Dallin couldn't console me, but he did hop on a plane from Salt Lake City, and he flew right here to San Diego. And he met me at the hospital early the next morning. He got special permission to go into my daughter Lexi's sterile cubicle. He spent a few minutes in there with her, and when he came out, he put his arms around me. And now he was all emotional. He said, "Colette, can you please forgive me? Can you forgive me? Forget USANA as a business. I don't even want you to build the business. But I'm going to send you some products, and I want you to start Charlie on these products. Can you do that for me?" Well, I have spent the last 30-something years telling people to just say yes. In fact, my book, Say Yes to Success, has just recently been published. I'm an author. However, sometimes our yeses are spoken so softly, they're barely audible. But I must have tentatively nodded my head, because a few days later, this starter pack and a big box of products ended up on my doorstep. I was about to take my first step on this incredible journey we called USANA. Now, why would I share such a painful memory? I'll tell you why. Of course, it's part of my story, but I still believe, over 30 years later, that people join us in this company, not because we have the finest products on the planet, and not because we have a fair and generous compensation plan, although both of those facts are absolutely true. They join us because we take the time to look into their hearts. They join us because they know that we care about them. I realized when my brother Dallin put his arms around me and held me, I realized that my relationship with him was more important than this business. He promised me in that moment that he would be there for me. And I can tell you that all these years later, he has kept that promise. He's been there for me every step of the way. But honestly, the timing could not have been worse. And here's a secret. Guess what? Most great opportunities come at inopportune times, and that's why we often think of them as distractions. Well, I started Charlie on the USANA products, and I quickly realized I needed more energy myself, and I wanted to get on the products as well. So again, I called my brother Dallin and I said, what would it actually take to start this as a business? So, my initial goal in USANA, this will make you smile, I thought, can I make $100 a month? If I can make $100 a month, I can afford to keep my daughter Charlie on the essentials. Well, Dallin patiently explained several times that I needed to build a team. He said, "Colette, you always tell people about things you love. Talk to some of your friends. Find 2 or 3 of them that want to get involved with you. Help them define their goals, and the income will start coming in." It sounded so simple. It does, right? It sounds simple. The problem was I didn't feel like a leader. I had this constant, brutal, internal dialogue going on. Like, who is going to listen to me? I have a high school education. I'm completely broke. My husband walked out on me. I'm not a salesperson. I have 0 time. I saw the circles, but I didn't really understand the compensation plan. I'm a mom. I'm not a businesswoman. So I had what I thought was a brilliant idea. I thought, if I can find a local leader right here in San Diego, someone that's doing meetings, then I can take my friends to those meetings, and maybe they'll sign up underneath me. I knew that I needed a mentor. So I had this idea. I called corporate. I called the customer service at USANA headquarters. And I got this sweet woman, and I said, I need to know who the leaders are in San Diego. And she said, well, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do a little research on that, and I will call you back. And I said, great. Well, the very next morning, the phone rang. Colette, You wanted to know who the leaders are in San Diego, who the top USANA distributors are in San Diego? And I said, yes. And I waited. I held my breath. You're it. Wait, no, you don't understand. I can't be the leader. I don't have any formal business education. I've never done direct sales. I have 5 children and 2 of them are fighting for their lives. I can't do this. Well, looking back, those 2 words, you're it, those words changed my life in ways that I couldn't begin to imagine back then. Stepping into that leadership role, it forced me to grow. It expanded my circle to include people I never would have met otherwise. Some of them are right here in this audience today. These are people who ultimately loved me, and they lifted me when I needed it the most. Now, let me fast forward this story just a few months. Convention was just around the corner, and I had learned the golden rule in our industry. Go to events. Leaders go to events and they take people with them. Well, the USANA Convention was in Las Vegas, so I did what any future leader would do who was on a budget. I talked 3 of my 2 new team members into sharing a room with me in Las Vegas so that my hotel bill would only be $20 a night. I cut every corner possible. I didn't just budget, I packed my own cooler, I packed my own food and took it to Las Vegas with me. This was in May of 1994. I proudly walked into that convention wearing my big green believer pin. I want you to notice what I'm wearing today. I have a whole jewelry box full of dozens and dozens of pins. But this is my very favorite because I was a believer. I'd earned my first check. Now, it wasn't a very big crowd. There were maybe 100 or 200 people back then. The theme that year was Place Your Bet on Excellence. Perfect for Las Vegas, right? Well, I sat in that room and I tried to absorb absolutely everything. To be honest, I was intimidated. The speakers up on the stage, they were so polished, they were so articulate. And I sat there thinking, oh my goodness, I could never do this. And then a speaker walked out on the stage that changed everything. He was a good-looking guy. He didn't seem very slick. He wasn't cocky. He didn't crack any silly Las Vegas gambling jokes. He just seemed, really normal. And yet he was the top earning distributor in USANA. I will never forget Sterling Ottison's speech for 2 very specific reasons. First, he seriously suggested that we all start leaving business cards on the top of men's urinals in the men's restroom. Okay, that's going to be a hard no from me. And then second, he reached in his bag and pulled out this pink fluffy bunny, and he wound it up and he put it down on the stage, and it started thumping around the stage. And at one point, I swear our eyes locked. He looked right out to the audience, and he looked right at me. And he said, your success in this business is strictly up to you. You just have to keep going and going and going and going. And I'm watching this bunny bumping his leg, and I thought, man, if that is the top distributor in USANA, look out, baby. Next year, I'm going to be up on that stage. And you know what? The next year I was under a big tent at Snowbird, Utah. I knew then that I could do this. I was called up. I received 2 awards that year. First, I received the award for the top sponsor of the year. And then at the very end of that convention, I was called up again as the top earning distributor in USANA. And I stood there and went, oh, I'm a leader. Well, my time with you is almost up already. If we were spending all afternoon together, I could share hundreds or maybe even 1,000 stories with you. I'd tell you about earning Gold Director as I was grieving the loss of my daughter Lexi, and how my team lifted me and carried me through that, and how they got me to Gold Director when I could barely function myself. I'd tell you about the absolute grind of 1999. I determined to do 99 meetings in 1999. I went all across the United States and Canada. I'd tell you about packing up my children and taking them to Australia. We moved to Australia for a year, and then we packed up and moved to Hong Kong. And then my son Zach and I went many, many times to South Korea. I'd tell you about traveling across the Philippines and Taiwan and all her trips to Mexico. I love Mexico so much. Yes, Mexico. These experiences gave us more than a business. They gave us a life that we could have never imagined. I'd also tell you about meeting my amazing husband, who's also here today, Rick. It's the craziest love story you've ever heard. It really is. And it started with me insisting if his relationship was going to go forward, he was going to have to get rid of all those nutritionals he was on and start taking USANA. But, in a couple months, we will celebrate our 21st wedding anniversary, and he has been my biggest cheerleader ever. I love him, sweetheart. Today, our children are grown, and we've been blessed with 22 incredible grandchildren. 5 of those grandchildren are foster grandchildren as a result of my beautiful daughter, Charlie, and her incredible husband, Ryan, and the children they've taken into their homes. These grandkids are growing up with a different definition of success. They're learning that success isn't measured only by what you earn, but by the lives you touch and the memories you create and the legacy you live. And leave. You live it and you leave it. They're growing up in a culture where serving others matters just as much as succeeding, and where dreams, persistence, and integrity are celebrated every single day. There is a story that I want to share. It happened in 2012, and my daughter Charlie is here with me today. But in 2012, she had just undergone a double lung heart transplant. They took out her entire engine. And just a few months later, I can't look at those pictures. A few months later, she stood on the stage to share her story with her USANA family. And she was incredible. When she walked off the stage, Dr. Wentz started toward her. And she put her hand out to shake Dr. Wentz's hand. And he gently shook his head, he opened his arms, and he said, "No, Charlie, I want to hold you heart to heart." My dear friends, USANA is a business with heart. After more than 30 years with USANA, the reason I'm still standing here in front of you, I keep saying, when I started, I said, I'm going to give this a few years. Here I am, I just turned 74. I should be retired, but I love USANA. Trust, loyalty, and legacy are everything to me. But now as I close, there is one more story, and I want to talk about it, and that is the story that you're going to write. Yes, I do have a compelling story. If it hadn't happened to me, I don't know if I'd even believe it. But so do you. So when you leave this convention and go out into the world, I want you to write your own story. And please don't leave out the difficult details. The people you approach don't want perfection. They want authenticity. They want real people with real trials who have found real triumphs. Your stories are what make you real, and they transform you from someone simply looking for a prospective business partner into a human being offering a lifeline like my brother offered me. So draw from your life experiences and lean into your challenges. Because someday, the angels are going to read from our book of life. And when they do, we don't want them to yawn. We want them to cheer. Thank you, my USANA family. Thank you to my sons and partners, my life partner, Rick, my beautiful daughters. I love you. Like Kevin said, thank you, Kevin. Thank you. I've loved being part of this family. I appreciate all of you very much.